I stood in the kitchen with the fridge light on behind me. She had been home from the trip for 2 days, and her phone sat on the counter between us. A message preview lit up for a second before she snatched it away. "Unlock it," I said. The words came out before I could pull them back. She looked at the phone, then at me, and the air went still. She did not answer. She did not move. The only sound was the low hum of the refrigerator. We had been married 5 years. Most days we followed the same pattern without thinking about it. I left for work at 7, and she left an hour later for the school where she taught. Evenings we ate dinner at the table and talked about small things like the weather or what we needed from the store. On weekends we sometimes drove out to the park near her house and walked the trails. She used to point out birds or flowers, and I would pretend to know the names. It felt steady. The trip came up in the spring. Her college friends were renting a cabin for a long weekend, and she said she wanted to go. I told her it was fine. She needed the break, and I had projects at work anyway. The night before she left, we ordered takeout and ate on the couch. She leaned against me while we watched a movie, and I remember thinking things were all right between us. Not exciting, but all right. She called once during the trip. Her voice sounded far away on the line, but she said the cabin was nice, and the weather was clear. I asked if she was enjoying herself. She said yes, and that she would be home soon. When I picked her up at the airport, she hugged me but did not hold on long. Her bag felt heavier than when she left. The first night back, she kept her phone on the nightstand with the screen facing down. I woke up once to the sound of it buzzing. She rolled over fast and carried it into the hallway. When she came back, she said it was nothing important. Asked if everything was okay from the trip. She said it was fine and turned toward the wall. The second day, she started stepping outside when the phone rang. I watched from the window while she walked to the end of the driveway. Her back was to the house, and she spoke low into the receiver. When she came inside, she did not mention the call. I asked who it was. She said one of the girls from the cabin. Her answer came too quickly. The next morning I saw her at the kitchen table with the phone in her lap. She smiled at the screen, then locked it when I walked in. I poured coffee and asked if she had pictures from the trip. She said she had not transferred them yet. The phone stayed in her pocket while we ate. That evening she stayed up later than usual. I went to bed first and heard her in the living room. The light from her phone screen moved across the wall when she shifted. I called out to ask if she was coming to bed. She said she would be there soon. 10 minutes later the hallway light went off, and she slipped in without a word. The following afternoon, I came home early. She was on the phone in the bedroom with the door half closed. I heard her say she did not know what to do. Then she stopped talking when she saw me in the doorway. She ended the call and set the phone on the bed. I asked if something was wrong. She shook her head and walked past me to the kitchen. Over the next 2 days, the pattern tightened. She charged the phone in the guest room instead of our bedroom. When I walked in to get a blanket, she turned the screen away and said she was just checking the time. I noticed. The password had changed from the old one we used to share for the shared account. I did not ask about it right then. One night, I woke to the sound of her footsteps in the hallway. She was pacing. The phone glowed in her hand. She stopped when she saw me standing at the bedroom door. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. She went back to the guest room and closed the door. I stayed in the hallway until the light under the door went out. I started replaying every conversation in my head. The short answers after the trip. The way she avoided showing me anything on the screen. The late calls she took outside. I told myself it could be work stress or something with her family, but the explanations felt thin. The house felt smaller every evening we sat in separate rooms. The weekend came, and we barely left the house. She said she had grading to finish, but I never saw papers on the table. Her phone stayed within reach at all times. When it buzzed during dinner, she picked it up and walked to the living room without excusing herself. I finished eating alone and listened to the low sound of her voice through the wall. I tried to bring it up once in the car on the way to the store. I asked if the trip had been too much. She said it was fine and kept looking out the window. The rest of the drive was quiet except for the radio. When we got home, she went straight to the bedroom and closed the door behind her. The next evening, I found her in the kitchen again. The phone was on the counter, screen dark. She was making tea and did not look up when I entered. I watched her for a minute. the way her shoulders stayed tight, the way she kept one hand near the phone. I felt the question rise before I could stop it. "Unlock it," I said. She set the kettle down. Her fingers stayed on the edge of the counter. She looked at the phone like it might move on its own. Then she looked at me. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came. The kettle clicked off on the stove. She did not reach for it. She did not reach for the phone. She just stood there. The days after that felt longer than the ones before. She moved her clothes into the guest room closet, without saying why. I heard the door lock at night. In the mornings she left before I woke up. When I tried to ask about dinner plans, she said she would eat later. The house stayed quiet except for the sound of doors opening and closing. I kept checking my own phone for messages from her, even though she was only one room away. Nothing came. One afternoon, I found a note on the kitchen table with the counselor's number written on it. She had not mentioned it to me. I left the note where it was and went to work. The fear settled in at night. I wondered if she had already decided something I could not fix. I thought about the trip and what might have happened in those 4 days. I thought about the calls she took outside and the messages she would not let me see. The not knowing pressed on my chest when I tried to sleep. A week later, she came into the living room after dinner. She sat on the arm of the chair across from me. Her hands stayed in her lap. She said the trip had made her see how far apart we had drifted. The friends had asked questions she did not have answers for. She had started texting one of them about whether it was time to make a change. The messages were about how she felt when we were in the same room, but not really together. She had been looking at apartments online and talking to someone about next steps. I listened without moving. The words landed one after another. She said she had not known how to tell me. The hiding started because she needed time to sort it out without hurting me first. When I asked for the phone, she froze because she did not have the right words ready yet. We sat there until the room got dark. She cried quietly. I did not reach for her. After a while she said she still wanted to try if I did. I said I did. We agreed to see the counselor together. She moved her things back to the bedroom the next morning, but she kept the phone on her side of the bed. The session started the following week. We talked about the routines that had turned into walls. I admitted I had been too wrapped up in work. She admitted she had stopped trying to reach me. The counselor gave us things to try at home. Some nights we sat on the couch and actually spoke instead of sitting in separate rooms. The phone stays in plain sight now. She does not hide the screen when it lights up. But the memory of that night in the kitchen does not leave. I still notice when she pauses before answering a call. The silence that followed my question sits between us even on the good days. It reminds me how close we came to something we could not take back.